Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be showing you how to draft and sew this stylish cross button of shirts. I will take you through the pattern drafting, cutting and sewing and all the important details, including the collar, short sleeve and the pocket. If you love to recreate this beautiful top, keep watching and let's get started. From the top of my paper, I'm going to roll out a straight line which is going to serve as my shoulder line. So from the side, I'm going to come in by 2.5 inches for the button stand. So every measurement that I need to take is going to start from that 2.5 inches that I marked. So after I'm done marking it, I'm going to roll out a straight line down to the end of the paper, which I'm going to label it button stand. After that, from the shoulder line, I'm going to come down by 10.5 inches for the bust line and 18 inches for the length of the top. After that, I'm going to roll out a straight line. After I'm going to roll out the line, I'm going to label it. After that, the next thing that I do is marking my shoulder measurement. So I'm going to divide my shoulder measurement into two, which is 7.5 inches. So I'll be using 5 inches to extend the shoulder length, which make it 12.5 inches that I mark on the shoulder line. So from there, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope and also mark 3 inches for the neck width. So after that, I'm going to connect it to the shoulder slope. After that, the next thing to do now is to mark in the length of the armhole. So I'll be using 7 inches. If you're small size, 7 inches can also work for you. So if you're bigger size, you can use 8 inches or 9 inches. After I'm not marking out the 7 inches, I added 1.5 inches for the stitches allowance. After that, I'm going to come down on the bust line and divide my bust circumference by 4. My bust is 36 divided by 4, which is 9. And I'm going to add extra 1 inches because this is not a fitted top, and another extra 1.5 inches for the stitches allowance. After that, I'm going to come down on the top line and I'll be using my waist measurement. My waist is 32 divided by 4, which is 8 inches plus 1 inches extra for the ease and another 1.5 inches for the stitches allowance. After that, I'm going to connect it together using a straight line and also connect it to the armhole. So the next thing that I do is marking my neck depth. So I'll be using 3 inches for the neck depth because this is a shirt neckline and you don't want your neckline to be too wide. So if you're small size, 3 inches can also work for you, and if you're bigger size, you can use 3.5 inches. So I use 3 by 3 for the neckline. So I'm also going to be marking my back neck depth, which I use 1 inches because this pattern is 2 in 1. So I'll be using the same pattern for the back. So after I'm done with that, I'm going to extend my front neck depth out like you see me doing. So after that, I'm going to raise it up by 1 inch. So I do this because by the time we fold in our body stand to afford shortage of fabric around the neckline, so that is the reason why I raise it up there. So that is it for the pattern. Let's cut it out. So after I'm not cutting out the pattern, I'm going to fold in my body stand and then cut out the back neckline because I've used the pattern to cut out the back fabric first before I cut out the front. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out the sleeve. So I'm going to measure what I have on the armhole, which is 8.5 including the stitches allowance. After that, I'm going to bring out another paper and from the center, I'm going to measure that 8.5 inches. So I'll be using 6 inches for the length of the sleeve and I'm going to add 1.5 inches for the hem allowance. So after that, I'm going to roll out the line. So from the side of the sleeve, I'm going to come down by 2 inches and connect it to the sleeve edge on the center. So I'll be using straight line to connect it together. After that, I'm going to remeasure that 8.5 inches that we mark on the armhole and they come down on the sleeve hem and I will be using 7.5 inches. So I'm going to connect it together. So that is it for the sleeve. So after I'm done labeling the pattern, I'm going to cut it out. After I'm done with the sleeve, this is what it's going to look like. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out the pocket. So for the length of the pocket, I will be using 10 inches by 6. So I'll be using 10 inches for the length and 6 inches for the width of the pocket. So guys, after I'm not cutting it out, I'm going to label it. So the next thing to do now is to cut out the pocket cover. So I'll be using 4 inches by 6 inches, 4 inches for the length and 6 inches for the width. So we are using the same width that we use for the pocket. We are going to use the same thing for the pocket cover. So I'll be cutting 2 for the pocket and 4 pieces for the pocket cover. So guys, this is everything that we have cut. So we cut the bodies, the sleeve and the pocket. So for the collar, we'll be doing that after we are done joining the pieces together. So I will start by folding my fabric into 2 and place my pattern on top. So I'll be cutting the back fabric on fold, and for the hem allowance I'll be using 1 inch. So the only place that I had a stitches allowance is the side, so every other place we are going to add our sewing allowance to it. After I'm not cutting out the back fabric, I'm going to bring out the button stand and cut out the front neckline. So after that, I'm also going to fold my fabric into 2, and we're cutting 2 pieces for the front. And don't forget to also add your stitches allowance. So after I'm just cutting out the front fabric, the next thing to do now is to cut out the sleeve. So I'll be folding my fabric into 4 and then place my sleeve pattern on the folded part before I start cutting it out. So after I'm not cutting out the sleeve, the next thing to do now is to cut out the pockets. For pockets, I'll be cutting out 2 pieces, and for the pocket cover, I'll be cutting out 4 pieces. So guys, this is everything after we are done transferring our pattern to the fabric. So let's move to the sewing part. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to notch out where my button stand stop, remove the pattern and fold in half an inch on the center and use the iron to press it down. After I'm using the iron to press it in, I also went ahead, I fold in 1 inches, so making it 1.5 inches that I fold in. So by the time I measure what's remaining left, it's going to be 1 inch. Don't forget that we use 2.5 inches for the button stand. And after that, I'm going to take it to the machine to stitch it down. So the next thing now is the pocket. So from the bottom of the pocket, I'm going to come up by 2 inches and fold it in. So I'm going to take it to the machine and I'm going to use 1/2 inches to stitch it down on both sides, but I'm not going to stitch it down to the end of that 2 inches. So I'm going to leave 1/2 inches at the top to join it to the body. So guys, after I'm done stitched out the button stand, this is what it's looking like. I also went ahead, I stitched out the hem allowance, but not to the end. I leave 1.5 inches to join the back. On the neckline, I'm going to trim off the excess that we have there. For the pocket cover, I'm going to stitch it all the way around except the top. After I'm done stitching it, I'm going to trim out the corner and turn it out. After I'm done turning it outside, I'm going to put it aside for ironing. So for the pockets, I'm going to turn it outside. So I already used my iron to fold in the stitches allowance on this side, and this is what it's looking like. So the next thing to do now is to fix the pocket to the fabric. So I'm going to measure 1.5 inches starting after the button stand. So from the shoulder there, I'm going to come down by 10.5 inches, and I'm going to do the same thing to the second part. So this is 1/2 inches that we left from that 2 inches that we folded in from the bottom of the pocket, and I'm going to place it at the hem of the shirt. And after I'm done pinning it, I'm going to place it down and stitch it down on both sides. And the pocket cover, I'm going to stitch it down on that 10.5 inches that will come down from the shoulder. After stitching it, I'm going to flip it down and top stitch on top. So guys, after I'm done stitching it down, this is what it's looking like. My back fabric on top to join the shoulder. After I'm done pinning the shoulder together, I'm going to take it to the machine to stitch it. So the next thing to do now is to fold in the hem of the sleeve. So I'm going to remove the pattern from it and fold in 1.5 inches for the hem allowance before I took it to the machine to stitch it down. So guys, after I'm done joining this shoulder, I also went ahead, I waved the stitches allowance. So the next thing to do now is to join the sleeve to the armhole. And make sure you notch the center of the sleeve before you start pinning it to the armhole. So after I'm done pinning it together, I'm going to stitch it, and after I'm done stitching it, this is what it's looking like. I also went ahead, I waved the stitches allowance. So the next thing to do now is to join this side. So I will start by pinning it together. After pinning it, I'm going to mark my stitches allowance, which is 1.5 inches on both sides. So guys, after I'm done marking out my stitches allowance, I'm going to take it to the machine to stitch it together, and I'm also going to stitch out the hem allowance. So the next thing to do now is to draft out 2 pieces collar. So for the collar, my pattern is on fold, so I'm going to roll out a straight line, and I'll be working with 18 inches for the round circumferences of the neckline. So I'm going to divide it into two, which I have 9 inches. After that, I'm also going to find the midpoint of that 9 inches, which is 4.5 inches. After I'm done marking it, from that 9 inches, I'm going to roll it up and then come up by half inches before I connect it to the midpoint, which is 4.5 inches that we marked at the middle. So after I'm done connecting it there, I will now mark the length of the collar, which I'll be using 1.25. So I'm going to mark it to the end of the paper before I connect it together. From this point here, I'm going to come in by 1 inch and then use my marker to cuff it like you see me doing. So after that, I'm going to cut it out, and that is it for the first pieces. And this is what it's looking like after I'm done cutting it. So the next thing to do now is to cut the second pieces. The paper is on fold. I'm also going to roll out a straight line and mark 9 inches, the same length that we used for the fourth piece that we just did now. After I'm done marking it, I'm going to roll a line up and mark 3 inches. So I'll be using 3 inches for the width. After that, from this point here, I'm going to come in by 1 inch and connect it to the top line. And from this midpoint here, I'm going to go up by half inches and blend it like this. So that is it for it. I'm going to cut it out now. And this is what it's going to look like after you have done with it. So I'll be using this to interface the collar, and I'll be cutting single of it without adding any stitches allowance to it. After I'm done cutting it finish, I'm going to remove my pattern paper and use it to cut out the fabric. For the fabric, I'll be cutting it double, and you can see this unfold. So I'm going to place it on top, and I'll be adding half an inch all the way around for the stitches allowance. So guys, after I'm done cutting it out, this is what it's going to look like. So the next thing to do now is to remove the pattern from the fabric, and we're going to interfacing the fabric. And I will be interfacing the made fabric, not the lining that I'm going to use to turn it inside. So I'm going to place my interfacing on top of the fabric. Make sure that the wrong side of the interfacing and wrong side of the fabric is facing each other before I took it to the iron table to use iron to gum it together. So after I'm done gumming it out, I also went ahead, I fold my one part of my stitched allowance inside. After that, I'm going to use the lining to turn this one inside. So I'm going to sew it all the way around except the bottom part. And after I'm done stitching it, I'm going to trim out the corner and turn it inside. So after I'm done turning it inside, I'm going to notch out the midpoint and also do the same thing to the rest. So the next thing to do now is to join the both pieces together. So to do that, I'm going to place the upper part is going to be in between the lining and the made fabric of the bottom part, and make sure when you are placing it, the one that have the interfacing is going to face towards each other before you place the lining on top and use it to turn it inside. So guys, after I'm done stitching it, I'm going to turn it inside, and this is what it's going to look like after you're done with it. So guys, the next thing to do now is to fix it to the neck. So I will start by pinning the collar to the neck and make sure that the one that doesn't have stay face towards the fabric. So after I'm not pinning it together, I'm going to take it to the machine and stitch it, and after that I'm also going to stitch the second side of the collar. After I'm done pinning in and stitches, this is what it's looking like. So I've already did my bodice holes, and I have 5 holes on the fabric, and it has 1.5 inches space in between the holes, and also face my button. And that is it, our stylish cut shirt is finally complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next sewing and pattern drafting tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.